Hey everyone, welcome back to the Gut Girls podcast. Today we're going to dive into something a little different. We're going to talk about why your friend's supplement worked, but yours didn't. We're also going to talk a little bit about the difference in oral supplementation versus IV therapy.
Yeah, this is an awesome topic today. So let me just start with saying, if you guys can relate to this, if you are a person who has opened your pantry or if you would right now open your pantry and just supplement bottles were to spill out all over the floor, this is who we're talking to today. We're talking to you. This episode is directly for you because most likely you have felt the frustration that most of our clients feel, where you've done the research, you've spent the money. I mean, you've taken the supplement that your friend swore changed her life, and yet you're still tired, you're still inflamed, and you're wondering why it's just not working for you. And then I can't help but wonder if the thought for you women creep in to say, like, why did it work for her but not for me? Like, is my body broken? So we want to tell you today, your body is not broken. You are not doing this wrong. And this is not about needing more willpower or another supplement or the bulletproof supplement out there. Really, guys, this is about understanding how the body receives support and why context matters more than capsules.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Let's talk about one of the biggest traps that a lot of women fall into without even realizing it. Let's say there's two women, you and your friend, the same supplement, the same brand, same dosage, you take exactly the same thing, and one of you feels amazing, and the other one is like, I feel nothing at all, or perhaps they even feel worse, right? And so then the comparison starts happening, right? You're thinking, why am I so complicated? Why does my body need so much help? Why can't I absorb these supplements? What's going on? And so here's the truth that nobody explains to you and why you feel so frustrated and confused. You're comparing the inputs, not the internal environment, right? So let's dive into that a little bit and talk about that a little bit more. So your friend, let's say it's magnesium. Your friend didn't just take this magnesium. Her body had to be able to actually receive it, like have the right terrain, the right composition to be able to actually receive the magnesium. And so we don't talk about that a whole lot, about what the difference is and why some do and why some don't. So let's dive in here, Angela.
Yeah, and I'll just take a step back to say what you just said about you're comparing input versus like internal environment. Doesn't that just make you want to pause and be like, okay, so can we just honor that every woman's body is different and like that's a beautiful thing, instead of being like, why am I not the same, right? Like, no, I'm gonna demand like today that we just take a moment to be like, I am uniquely different, and that's a beautiful thing. And now let's dive into what Diana was saying. Is I think that people don't realize another bold statement is that, guys, supplements don't just work on their own. Like a supplement, a capsule, no matter what's in it, it doesn't mean it's going to work just because you're taking it, right? That's not how supplements work. So if you didn't know that, you might just be mind blown right now. But supplements actually rely on food. So, wow. Okay, let's dive into that. Protein, right, from food gives your body the building blocks, the minerals that carry signals, the fats that help the absorption of the capsule, enzymes and bile that unlock the nutrients inside the capsule, right? So if you don't have protein, minerals, the right fats, the right enzymes, it doesn't matter what kind of supplement that you're putting in your mouth, it is not going to work without the other context. So if meals are skipped, right, which is a top one, if you're rushed, if you're underfueled, if you're inconsistent with your day-to-day routine, the body is already in a stress response. And we know that a stressed body does not prioritize repair, and it does not prioritize breaking down food, right? You're in survival mode. So food is the signal that tells your body we're safe and we can receive, which is what Diana was talking about. Without that signal, supplements don't fully land in your body, no matter how high quality or professional grade they are.
Yeah. And you know what we talked about a minute ago, like where your friends may have been absorbed, but yours didn't be absorbed. Why is that? And how does that work? And so we have not been taught that nutrients a lot of times work in teams. So You might be taking a vitamin D, you might be taking magnesium, you might be taking B vitamins, but if the cofactors are missing and you're not working in teams, then the process is like, it doesn't even, you're not even digesting and absorbing those nutrients. And so that could be one reason. And then let's talk about inflammation. I feel like this word is used all the time. You know, we've talked about me having a storefront, a wellness storefront, and people come in all the time, use this word inflammation. And so when we talk about it, a lot of times we're thinking, you know, what it kind of looks like on a GI map test. That's a lot of times what we're looking at. So we're looking at the gut lining being inflamed from food reactions, infections, chronic stress, years of restriction. And so our absorption changes. It really can, because of the state that our gut microbiome is in. And so here's the message that I want to tell you. Your body isn't rejecting the supplements. It's actually kind of protecting itself, which is what you hit on just a few minutes ago. And so the body's kind of more in a defense mode, and it's not focused on the building of it. It's actually focused on staying safe. And we talk about that a lot. Really, in the Gut Girls, we talk about this safe. And I know some people might think it's kind of corny, it's kind of silly, but our body constantly wants to be in this perfect homeostasis. So if it doesn't feel safe, then that's a lot of times when this disarray happens, or maybe the absorption doesn't happen or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially like in our membership, when we coach you through the different GI map patterns, each pattern doesn't feel safe for a particular reason, right? And each pattern then needs a different approach to help it feel safe. So we highlight this more than anything in order to get the transformation that people are looking for. So then that does bring me, Diana, to like trauma in the nervous system, because this is the piece that almost no one talks about. So guys, if you've lived through, let's say, like chronic stress, or if you've been through a traumatic event, emotional trauma, medical trauma, or like, let's just say the common one, I think, which is years of pushing through exhaustion, your nervous system may still be in protection mode. We've mentioned this book so many times on the podcast, but the book, The Body Keeps the Score, it's so true. Like, you don't just shut off a traumatic pathway that the body has put itself into with just like the snap of a finger or a supplement. That's not what changes the nervous system pattern. Your body, it hasn't learned that it's safe to receive. So in order to, like, think of it as a ski slope. If you've gone down the same ski slope, your skis have made this groove in the snow, you've got to unwind and build a different path through the snow, right? And so in order to do that, you have to take the body from being on high alert out of high alert. So we go back to that inflammatory word that you were just talking about, Diana, where a lot of the times it's starting with inflammation, and it's starting with simple things like the basics that we teach our members, like blood sugar regulation, right? If you're constantly skipping meals and your body's excreting cortisol all the time and you've got blood sugar crashes, that's just keeping the body in that unsafe ski groove, right? So we need to rebuild that, and we need to repair, but it takes time. So just to kind of get us back on track, like, you can take the right supplement and you can eat the right food and follow the right plan, but if your body is not safe and feels ready to receive, nothing is going to work, like Diana said. And it's not because, again, you're not broken. It's because, think of it more this way. You are bracing. And how many women right now could probably relate to that, because you constantly feel like you're holding your breath, right? You constantly are role playing what's going to happen next. I know that from being a mom. I'm like constantly thinking 5 steps ahead. And so I am constantly bracing, right? And so that's what we're talking about. That has to be worked on over time. The lifestyle has to change. The mindset has to change. The inflammation has to change in order for then the supplement to help.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I was just thinking, I mean, if you think about our body sort of like a house, and these supplements are the deliveries, right? It's Amazon that shows up on your doorstep, right? And if our house is sort of in emergency mode, and we've talked about this with, you know, where we are, just like you talked about with the cortisol and the blood sugar and all this dysregulation that's going on, if our body's constantly doing that, the alarms are going off, the the doors are locked, the delivery is just going to sit on the front porch, right? So it's not going to be delivered inside the house, which is what it really needs to be. And so one of the things that we as Gut Girls always try to constantly teach is how to open that door first, in a sense. And that's going back to a lot of our basics that we talk about. And I know if you listen to the podcast a lot, we do talk about this a lot, but it's because they're the foundational things that we have to do to be able to allow those supplements and allow that absorption to happen, and the digestion of your food. It's really everything, right? So our body has to be prepared for that. And so what that means is regular meals. And of course, we talk about that as far as protein. You can go back and listen to last podcast talking about protein and what a colorful meal should look like and what fiber looks like and how much carbs should eat. And even so far as like the order in which we suggest you eat your meal, all of that matters to make sure that terrain is prepared and ready, right? And so our body wants predictability. It wants gentle routines, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, some gentle movement. Again, a lot of those go back to our basics guide. So that's a great place to go. If you're on our membership, it's like, even if you're pretty far into the membership and you've taken supplements and you're doing this, and I'm working on this, like, trying to revamp my gut altogether, but I've kind of hit these roadblocks, then, honestly, we're going to be like, hey, go back to the basics again. Make sure you're doing the foundational things. Take 2 weeks to make sure that you're doing the foundational things. And so we're constantly still saying that. And so for our listeners, if this is kind of the first time somebody's just sent this podcast to you or something, I would suggest we actually offer the basics guide on our website as well, gutgirls.health. So you can go download it for free there. And then we have that plus lots and lots of other resources inside our membership as well. And so let's get back to these basics that we really want to work on and focus on to be able to absorb these nutrients. So this is why our nervous system has to be in the right state, right, Angela?
Absolutely. And it then brings me to like the next part of this podcast, which you have personally had a lot of questions about IV therapy, Diana, but people, before we're going to dive into that right now. So just to kind of switch our view here on what we're about to talk about, what's interesting though is people look to IV therapy for support, but they've skipped the basics. So if you've even heard of IV therapy, or you're curious about it, or let's say you've tried it and it didn't do anything for you, we've laid out, honestly, in this podcast, like possibly reasons why. So even before you digest the IV therapy part of this podcast, make sure you've really taken the time to hit the basics, like Diana said. Once you've done that, this is where understanding the tools, right, instead of chasing fixes, changes everything. So let's go back to a second here. Oral supplements, like we talked about, the supplements that just fell out of your pantry this morning, they are foundational. They build long-term resilience, and they teach the gut how to absorb again, along with the basics, right, that Diana just talked about. But then sometimes, guys, the body does need more help before it can rebuild. Some people's nervous system, like I said, or that ski slope is more ingrained than others. And so that's where IV therapy can be supportive, right? So basically, IV nutrients, they bypass digestion, right, because they're given through an IV, and they offer immediate availability, which can help when someone is inflamed, depleted, or struggling to absorb anything at all, and they need a little bit of relief, right? Like they need some support alongside. We see this a lot when people are working on the gut health, but they're so symptomatic, right, Diana, that they're like, please help me, like, what can I do right now? And it's like, we can do the gut work, the deep work, alongside this IV therapy. But I want to make it known that it's not a replacement for gut healing. We would consider it more like a bridge, right, Diana?
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said I had so many questions about it, because if we rewind back to 2017, when I was kind of searching for all these answers, I was looking for, either a medication or a quick fix or a supplement. Something to help me heal my body. And so that's when I really started diving in and researching all these different methods and things. And so, IV therapy, I've used it multiple times, even though obviously I'm constantly working on our gut girl's lifestyle that I'm doing all the time, but there are times that it's been really beneficial. I've shared on here that I've used it. Todd has used it with the alpha-gal syndrome and he had Rocky Mountain spotted fever back in May of last year. And I mean, it really wiped him out, and IV therapy was a great resource for him. And I've used it for myself. Just, I need kind of a quick rebound. I've used it for my kids. I feel like it's safe for my kids. You can talk to your doctor and decide whether or not you feel like it's safe for your children. But these are all the reasons why, again, I've shared with you that at Nature's Elite, we have a wellness store where we have these higher quality supplements. And just like Angela said, those go through the digestive system, right? They have to go through the liver and the kidneys to be able to be processed and assimilated throughout the body. And this IV therapy works differently. And so I have now kind of another solution at Nature's Elite. It's inside the building, and it's called Revive Wellness, and it is offering IV therapy now. And so this IV therapy, I want to make sure that it's known that I know that I understand both sides, right? And so it's not shortcuts. It's just additional support. It's a different kind of support. So for those of you that might be feeling stuck, exhausted, overwhelmed by supplements, IVs can give body a quick relief first, right? And so then when we pair that IV therapy with the education and things like what I've just been talking about, it kind of helps us understand and get a better picture about why it helps and what you do kind of after that is the longevity, which is what you talked about with the oral supplementation. And so the IV can restore enough capacity that food and oral supplements finally kind of start working back together again. So I love that there's all these kind of pieces finally all coming together a little bit.
I love your whole story. Like, I hear you say that, and I'm like, you're now offering this IV therapy, but it's not where you started. Like, you've done years, like you said, of the gut work first. So that's huge. I'm so excited for your town, honestly, the town of Tullahoma. So if you guys are listening, and let's say this, if you're not in Tullahoma, and you're just like, okay, this makes sense. I don't have access to Diana's, store, but what do I do now? Let's go back to give you like actionable steps you can take away today, because that is our goal at Gut Girls, is to always make this within reach for everyone of every financial level or every capacity, right? So first, this is kind of a little gut punch, but I want you to stop adding. Like, just stop, right? Just take a minute. I want you to stop adding additional things, and I want you to start understanding. And when I say start understanding your own body. That might be, where is your mental view on health? If you believe you're broken, like we've said this in other podcasts, you're not going to heal no matter what you do. And if you don't believe that you have the ability to heal, that will change everything about your journey. And then I want you to fuel your body before fine-tuning supplements. So this goes back to the basics, okay? So start at the basics. Like Dinah said, you have access to that on our website. And then address inflammation and safety first. So through the basics, you do address inflammation, but however, that's also where the GI map does come in. So, even if you're someone who's out there that's like, I've tried all the supplements, in fact, you're talking to me, my pantry's full of it, maybe you've never gotten individualized a support plan, like with a test like the GI map, right? Maybe now is your time to take the next step and to get that GI map. And that's something we can offer you, because then we can really get to see your nervous system pattern. And you actually, when we talk about a health transformation, guys, it's not just you lose the weight, your skin clears up, your joints feel better. It's a knowing about your body, right? It's a new way of knowing the cues that your body's giving you, understanding the pain, not fearing it, but understanding what it's trying to tell you about, your how you're showing up in the world. After you've done that, then, guys, that's where you can use IV therapy strategically, not reactively. And then your plan, gets shaped by your body's needs and not someone else's results, right? You're not chasing your best friend's results and doing her plan, because it's not going to serve you. It's not for you. It's for her. So reminder is just, healing isn't about finding the magic supplement. It's about creating the conditions where anything you take can and will finally work.
Yeah, I love that you give the actionable steps and obviously including the basics guide. But I do want to throw one more in, which was something that was so helpful for me in my journey, and that is journaling. And again, you guys might be rolling your eyes like, oh my gosh, I'm not keeping a journal. But guys, I can tell you from experience, and I can tell you some of the most successful people that go through our programs are the ones that journal. And I'm not saying they're just journaling like, oh, I had, 22 grams of protein at this meal. They're journaling that, but then they're also journaling how much water they drank. How did they sleep last night? What supplement, how did that make them feel when they took a digestive enzyme? How did that make them feel when they changed probiotics? How did that make them feel? And so you can learn so much about yourself and really truly kind of become your own doctor and really understand, especially after you have been through our programs where we do kind of help, provide that guidance for you through your specific GI map pattern. And then we try to set you up for success for the lifetime, right? And then so you always know to come back to these basics. Or you always know to come back to your journaling where you're like, okay, I know that what I did when I was with Diana and Angela was this, and I want to keep this journaling. But we also do this inside our membership where we're constantly a part of your, you as the listeners. Some of you may already be a part of our membership, but if you're not, we would love to have you as one of our members where we're constantly growing and doing this together. I sent out, in our membership, I sent out this week exactly what my meal plan was for the week. And it was not this glorious, glamorous looking meal, it's how do I do it with basketball and swimming and all the things that the extracurricular things that my girls do. And Angela did the same thing. She's adding recipes of like what soup she's trying, what meals she's doing. And then our members are actually doing it as well too. So all of that's inside the membership. So again, if we're just kind of like wrapping this up, make sure that you're go back to your basics and do your journaling. And then you will be able to kind of understand a little bit more about what your body needs as far as supplementation or IV therapy. So I hope this has been helpful for you as we kind of sign off for today. As always, if you have questions or whatever, you can send us a message through that, just put it on here, either on Spotify or on YouTube, and we would love to answer your questions on here. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. The Gut Girls podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are not acting as licensed medical professionals. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your health routine.